Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today we are here with a third installment of Searching Catholicism.
First, we did the existential questions.
Why?
Then, we did the practical questions. How? Now, we're doing the temporal questions.
When?
When do we want time travel?
Now.
No,
it's irrelevant.
That's irrelevant. What do we want? Time travel.
No,
when do we want it? That's irrelevant.
All right.
Gotcha.
First
I want
question.
it now, but
It's irrelevant, Nate.
First question. When do Catholics not eat meat?
Fridays.
Typically Fridays.
Also,
Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Sometimes if you just feel like, not eating meat.
So,
as we pointed out in an earlier episode,
There's a lot of questions that people really want to know about the fasting rules.
Catholics are technically called to abstain from meat on all Fridays. Here in the United States, though, our bishops have stated that you do not have to abstain from meat, but that you should be doing some other form of penitential / sacrificial
Action.
action. I wanted to say work, and I'm like, that's the wrong word. Action.
So, as a practical matter, when do Catholics not eat meat? On the Fridays of Lent and Ash Wednesday. There are formally only two official fast days in the church. Ash Wednesday
And Good Friday.
and Good Friday. You should definitely not be eating meat on either of those days.
And then there's a lot of, ones that are historic and cultural. Like, I know a lot of groups, eat fish for Holy Saturday because it's kind of that weird day.
It's a really weird day, and fish is weird, so here we go.
Well, it's like an Italian thing to have, I think 7 different fishes for that day.
Well, again, Italy is a peninsula. It's surrounded by
By
the
water.
ocean, so yeah, they're used to fish.
Yes, all right, next question.
Next question. Number 2. When do Catholics go to church? Primarily every Sunday. And on holy days of obligation. On a more extended basis, when do you want to go to church? I mean...
One difference between Catholicism and various forms of Protestantism is in most parishes, daily Mass is offered.
Yes. Or if it's not offered in every parish, it is at least offered in... I'm trying to remember what the word of it is. It's like parochiate, where it's not one parish, but it's the parishes of a general area.
Yeah.
So, if you have 3 Catholic churches in your area, they might not all offer daily masses.
But one of them will.
But one of them will be offering a mass on any given day.
Plus, there's masses in hospitals and retirement homes, and there's mass all over the place.
Yeah.
And quite often you can go to church even if it's not a mass. Like, our parish has a perpetual adoration chapel, so if you have the key, if you want to go and pray at church at 3 in the morning, you can.
But
it's super creepy. Even if it's a church, you're like, did I hear a sound?
church at 3 in the morning is a little bit on the creepy side.
I think it's the boilers because they always make noise.
I saw a demon once, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah, that
Fair
is.
enough.
So, Catholics have an obligation to go to Mass on Sundays, and most of the time, if you don't, that's actually a sin. That's rarely enforced, but, well,
Yes, and there are various things that excuse you, especially given that it's COVID.
Of course.
There's certain, dioceses where they're like, due to the restraints, no one has to go.
Well, it is always
health problems.
It is always the case that if health problems prevent you, you're excused. That's a completely legit excuse.
Or legitimate logistics. If there isn't one being offered in the area where you are at.
Yeah, if it's impossible for you to get to Mass.
Exactly.
Yes. We've been excused by our priest because we're like, we don't have a ride and it's approximately a 3-hour walk and it's freezing out.
Yeah, totally reasonable. But because you want to, stay in your slippers and watch TV, that's not a legitimate reason not to go to Mass.
Because I stayed out late last night having good times, and I just really can't get myself out of the bed this morning.
Yeah.
It's also not a valid reason.
However,
Sick?
if you set your alarm, planned on getting up and, slept through and there was no other Mass later on, that's an accident. valid reason.
As long as it's a legit accident. You didn't accidentally sleep in.
Yeah.
Yes, it has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be an accident. Full stop. Not accident in air quotes.
So if you're sick, you're always excused from mass.
Yes, please don't go if you're sick.
If you're hungover, get to mass. You especially need it then.
Yeah.
Drink some fluids first. All right, next question.
Water preferably, because you should be fasting before mass.
Indeed.
Question number 3: When do Catholics get confirmed? Now that's a trick. That's an interesting question, and there's a few different opinions on that.
So, in most of the dioceses of the United States, Catholics are generally confirmed in their early to mid-teens.
There is a movement currently to go to a more
They usually
old
call
church.
it restored order because
Yes.
that's how they used to do it like a while ago, in which you would get confirmed and then have your first communion, and so therefore around the age of reason at around 7.
Well, I mean, various things, because First Communion used to be much later.
Yes.
You wouldn't have your First Communion until you were roughly 13, 14, or sometimes even 18. Well, and one thing to look at is the way we do it with adults. So what we're talking about is children.
Yes.
Because most Catholics are baptized as infants, receive the First Communion in 1st or 2nd grade.
Usually around 2nd.
Yeah, and then are confirmed, somewhere between
around 8th grade-ish.
8th to 10th grade. But with adults at the Easter Vigil, if you're a completely unbaptized person,
You get
you'll
all
come in,
3 in the same night.
and in this order, you will first be baptized, you will then be confirmed, and only then will you receive the Eucharist. So that's one of the reasons why some people are pushing for restored order, because it's not only the way we used to do things, but it's still the way we do things with grown-ups. And so the problem with teenagers is it really does seem like Catholic graduation. Congratulations, you're done now, you never have to come back.
Yeah.
And many people don't.
Yes, and also in cases of life or death in some of the Eastern rites, it can be done at any age once you're baptized.
Okay, and I mean, I know cases, in Western Rite Catholicism where a child has been near death, and so they're baptized, confirmed, and you're given the Eucharist as an infant.
Yeah.
Just like our Eastern brothers do all the time.
And it should be noted that the thing that all these norms that we've been talking about are primarily Western Rite
Well, again,
Catholic churches, because if you go to the Eastern Rite churches, many of them will do all 3 for infants,
Yeah.
just as we would do them on Easter Vigil for adults, and that they get baptized, they get confirmed, and they receive their first communion all right there in the same service.
Yeah. Well, again, but part of the reason we talk about Western Rite is what we are,
Yeah.
and also that's the vast majority of the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not dismissive of our Eastern brethren, just we vastly outnumber them.
Yep. All right. Next
And we
question.
don't really have all that much experience with them.
I've been to one Byzantine liturgy. It was a funeral.
There you go. Question number 4. When do Catholics celebrate Easter? So, I actually...
Do you remember the rules? Because
Oh.
I had it in a class, and I'm like, I'll just look at the calendar when it says it's Easter. It's so complicated. There are charts and graphs.
I believe it is the Sunday following the full moon, following the vernal equinox.
That is correct.
So the official, so you find on the calendar the official first day of spring, which is the vernal equinox. You then find from there the next full moon,
Which could be the next day, could be almost a month later.
Yep.
This is why it's such a movable feast.
and then you find the Saturday immediately following that full moon.
It's just that simple.
It's that simple.
Now, there was a controversy in the early church of some people wanted to celebrate Easter on the 14th day of Nisan.
Yes,
was
because then it would hit with Passover,
Yeah,
like the original Easter.
yeah, which is when the Jewish Passover is celebrated. But ultimately, it was ruled that Easter should be celebrated on a Sunday, since that's when the Lord rose from the dead. And that is the definitive Passover, not the escape from Egypt, but the Lord setting us free from death.
Next question.
Next question.
Now, what's really funny is when those who reject the church's teaching authority still follow the church's calendar.
Yeah.
How does a Protestant know when it's Easter?
It's on the calendar.
when the Catholics say it is.
So, question number 5. When do Catholics